This is a song about that special person in my life. It's called I Will Always Love You.
From superstar to depression, the true story of Dolly Parton, finally revealed. As the pressures of her life and success weighed in on her, country music legend and award-winning songwriter Dolly Parton found herself writing her last words down as she contemplated taking her life in the early 80s. At that moment, she recalls that her dog, a Boston Terrier named Popeye, jumped up on her bed. It looks like that was enough to snap her back to reality. After she jolted back to her senses, it became clear that her dog was a messenger from God. In a 2018 interview with Jad Abumrad, she says, "My little dog, Popeye, at the time, he jumped up on the bed about the time I was writing my, God is dog spelt backwards, and I always thought that might have been the very thing." But how exactly did the country music icon go from the comfort of fortune and fame to the corridors of the afterlife? Dolly Parton's journey has been far from a dreamy fairy tale. She grew up in abject poverty, one of 12 children in a small cabin in Tennessee. She had incredible talent, but she also faced personal losses, including the heartbreaking death of her beloved sibling when Dolly was just a child. As Dolly enjoyed the highs of fame, she also struggled with the lows of a troublesome life, relationships, family issues, and the burden of fame. In this video, we'll dive in and look at the turbulent journey of the global country music superstar. Dolly Rebecca Parton was born on January 19, 1946, to Avie Lee Caroline and Robert Lee Parton Sr. Their family lived in a small one-room cabin on the banks of a river in Pittman Center before moving to a farm in the Smoky Mountains of Locust Ridge, Tennessee, where Dolly has some of her fondest childhood memories. As Dolly describes, her family was dirt poor. Her father was a tobacco farmer who worked hard to provide for his family. She recalls her mother would stay home with their 12 children and entertain them with folklore and ballads she had learned as a child. It's no wonder Dolly credits her musical ability to her mother and her business savvy to her father. But neither business nor talent could prepare Dolly for what was about to happen next. In 1955, just 4 days after the birth of her little brother Larry, the 9th out of 12, tragedy struck when he passed away. Dolly was only 9 years old at the time. In a 2015 interview with Fox News, following her contribution to Coat of Many Colors, Dolly said, "My mother, through the years when we were born, since there were so many of us, used to say, 'This one is gonna be your baby.' That just meant that you got to take extra care of it. This particular baby that passed away in the movie was my baby." Dolly suffered serious heartache after Larry passed, but this was the first of many difficult moments Dolly would encounter along her journey. Life continued for Dolly in their rustic one-bedroom cabin on the farm in Locust Ridge. Music made life bearable for her. She was no stranger to performing in front of an audience. In fact, she had been singing since she was 6 at the Church of Christ where she was raised, led by her grandfather, Jake Robert Owens. Already accustomed to playing the guitar, she had been playing a homemade guitar at 7, and her uncle got her a real one when she turned 8. So it came as no surprise to see what Dolly was getting up to by the time she was 10. She was performing regularly on the Cass Walker Show on both radio and TV, and 3 years later, in 1959, when she was 13, Dolly and her uncle, Bill Owens, managed to book a spot to perform at the Grand Ole Opry for the first of many times. Things were looking up for young Dolly, who was brought on stage by the legendary artist Johnny Cash, and after her rendition of George Jones's "Gotta Be My Baby," received 3 encores that night. This spelt greatness for the 13-year-old farmer's daughter from Tennessee. But new challenges lurked in the corner that Dolly would encounter after she made her next move. Dolly was set on becoming a country music star at this point, so a day after she graduated high school in 1964, Dolly went to Nashville to make her dreams a reality, but was immediately met with hardship and difficulty. Dolly recounts how rough those days were for her, stating that there were times when she could only afford cheap condiments for dinner. On her podcast, Dolly Parton's America, she talks about getting creative and making soup out of mustard and ketchup packets. Dolly needed a big break, and it looked like the universe was about to answer her prayer. In 1967, Norma Jean had just left the Porter Wagoner show, and Dolly Parton got a chance to sing on that show, but she was again immediately met with disaster. During her first performance, she was booed by the audience, who were still grumpy from Norma's departure and would sometimes chant Norma's name all across the room. This devastated Dolly, who dreamed of making it as a country music artist. Porter, however, was relentless and managed to get the audience on Dolly's side, and things started to take an interesting turn from there.
It's the plain a child could understand.
Yes, Daddy was an old-time preacher man.
Dolly and Porter performed as a duet and changed country music forever. The audience loved them, and their voices blended so well together that they instantly achieved chart success with their first release together. This marked the beginning of a 6-year streak of releasing top 10 hit singles. However, Dolly struggled to find commercial success in her solo efforts and was slowly growing frustrated by the fact. This frustration was shared by Porter, who had to once again step in and creatively shift the public perspective on Dolly. Parton was persuaded to record Jimmie Rodgers' Mule Skinner Blues by Wagoner. The effort was successful as the record climbed to number 3, and her solo success was now in full effect. By February 1971, she released her first #1 single, Joshua. The following 2 years brought numerous solo hits along, including her signature song, Coat of Many Colors, number 4, 1971, in addition to her duets. But as her fame spread, Dolly outgrew Porter and knew it was time to move on. She was grateful to Porter for setting her on the path to the top, and decided she was going to make the most Dolly exit ever and write a song to Porter, who had done so much for Dolly up until this point. But she was not about to get the fairy tale end she expected. After walking into his office and asking him to sit, she played him I Will Always Love You, a song that would later shake the globe. But Porter wasn't having any of that. Things got dark quickly, and the events that followed further deepened Dolly's heartache. Porter started saying horrible things about Dolly, but that was not the hardest pill she had to swallow. Dolly was hit with a lawsuit from Porter. He was suing her for a contract breach and demanding $3 million. Dolly did not have that type of money, and instead opted to settle out of court. They did, and Dolly offered to pay $1 million. It took her many years to pay Porter off, and the heartache followed her for a long time. But she would eventually forgive him and rekindle their friendship. Dolly had endured many hardships in her life, and when she first moved to Nashville in '64, she was focused on taking her career as far as possible. Through all her struggles, it looks like she found a silver lining. As the story goes, Dolly met a man named Carl Dean at the Wishy Washy Laundromat back in 1964, and they were married 2 years later. They remain married to this day, but what happened next raised a lot of brows about the true state of Dolly's love life. In the early 80s, Dolly suffered severe depression after having what she called an affair of the heart with Burt Reynolds. She was in a very dark place, and that's when the thought of taking her life first crossed her mind. According to Dolly, she would look at the gun she had on her nightstand for burglars and think about ending it. One day, she went as far as writing a goodbye note for her loved ones, but while she was at it, Popeye, her dog, leapt onto the bed, and she felt like God used him. Things brightened up in Dolly's life, and she attained incredible success through her career, which has spanned over 5 decades. She's hailed as a country legend and has sold over 100 million records worldwide, making her one of the best-selling music artists of all time. Her achievements include 25 singles that reached #1 on the Billboard Country Music charts, a record for a female artist, tied with Reba McEntire. 44 career top 10 country albums, the most for any artist. 110 career charted singles over the past 40 years. Composed over 3,000 songs, including iconic hits like I Will Always Love You, Jolene, Coat of Many Colors, and 9 to 5. She has 11 Grammy Awards out of 50 nominations, including the Lifetime Achievement Award, 10 Country Music Association Awards, including Entertainer of the Year, 5 Academy of Country Music Awards, also including Entertainer of the Year. Dolly also has 4 People's Choice Awards and 3 American Music Awards, nominations from the Academy, Grammy, Tony, and Emmy Awards. Inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame in 1999. Received the National Medal of Arts in 2005. inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2022. Dolly also starred in notable films such as 9 to 5, 1980, The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, 1982, Rhinestone, 1984, Steel Magnolias, 1989, Straight Talk, 1992, and Joyful Noise, 2012. Her roles have earned her Golden Globe nominations for Best Actress. She is the co-owner of the Dollywood Company, managing the Dollywood Theme Park, Splash Country Water Park, and dinner theater venues like the Dolly Parton Stampede and Pirate's Voyage. She also founded the Dollywood Foundation in honor of her father. The foundation focuses on education and poverty relief in East Tennessee, where she grew up. Thank you for watching today's video. Like and subscribe for more videos like this.